Hello and welcome. Today we're going to crack open a song that's deeply woven into German cultural history, Jenseits von Eden by Steine Scherben. We're going to decode these lyrics together to see just how much power is packed inside.
Okay, let's dive right in with the central question the song throws at us. What does it actually mean to live beyond Eden? You have to understand Eden here is way more than just a place. It's a powerful symbol for belonging, for a perfect world, for the right way to live. So from the very first second, the title throws us outside, right to the edge of that perfect world.
And here's our game plan. We'll start with attention right in the title, then figure out who's even speaking here, analyze the content and form, take a close look at the language, explore two fascinating ways to interpret it all, and finally we'll ask, what does this song still have to say to us today?
All right, let's start with that core conflict. The title alone, Jenseits von Eden, or Beyond Eden, builds this massive tension. It pits an ideal world against the harsh reality where the person speaking in the song lives. This contrast is really the engine of the entire song. On one side, you've got Eden, a word that instantly brings up images of harmony, belonging, and a clear sense of order. On the other side, you have Jenseits, which means beyond, and that implies distance, exclusion, but also the chance for freedom and the need to go searching. Now, to understand who's actually speaking here, we need a little bit of context. The song is rooted in German counterculture, which was highly critical of mainstream norms. And for our analysis, there's one golden rule we have to follow. That rule is, the artist is not the character. The I who speaks in the song, what we call the lyrical I, is a constructed persona. This isn't necessarily the songwriter Rio Reiser telling us his life story. It's more of a representative voice, speaking for a very specific experience of being an outsider. So who's talking? An outsider figure, someone who finds their place on the margins of society. And who are they talking to? Well, that's what's so interesting. The lyrics leave it open. Is this voice directed at society, almost like an accusation? Is it for like-minded people trying to build community? Or maybe it's an intimate address to just one other person, a you, trying to explain this inner conflict. That openness gives the song both a very personal and a highly political dimension. Now let's get to the actual analysis of content and form. We're going to look at how the lyrics map out an internal journey and how the musical structure supports that journey and loads it with meaning. The song has a really clear emotional arc. First, it's a statement, I am an outsider. Then it describes the consequences, the pressure to conform, the feeling of not belonging. But out of that grows this powerful counterproposal, the will for freedom and authenticity. But, and this is super important, being an outsider isn't romanticized. There's a sense of melancholy. And it all flows into this open-ended mindset. The search itself becomes the purpose.
Let's zoom in on the form for a second, because it's crucial. We can start with the most obvious part, the refrain. Sure, it's the part that gets stuck in your head, but in a text like this, the refrain is never just a catchy hook. It's the emotional anchor that hammers the central idea into our consciousness again and again.
Think about the effect of that. Every time we hear Jenseits von Eden, that state of being an outsider isn't just mentioned, it's cemented. It's not a temporary trip, it's a permanent address. The repetition makes this place on the edge of society feel almost physically real. Okay, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty, the language, because the real emotional power of the song isn't just in what is said, but how it's said, through very deliberate symbols and contrasts. A key tool here is a literary device called antithesis. It sounds complicated, but it's simple. You place two opposites right next to each other to maximize the tension. And this song is basically one giant antithesis. It thrives on these clashes. You can really divide the entire song into two opposing word worlds. On one side, you have everything related to order, security, arrival, the inside, the norm. And the song pits that against the world of freedom, authenticity, being constantly on the move, the outside, being different. It's the friction between these two worlds that gives the song all its power. This leads us to a crucial question that the song asks without ever fully answering. What does the speaker actually gain and lose by being beyond? They gain freedom and authenticity, but they lose security and belonging. The song doesn't resolve this conflict for us, it just shows it in all its messy ambivalence. And it's precisely because the text leaves this conflict hanging that it opens the door for at least two major interpretations. And that right there is a hallmark of great art. It's never just one thing. Let's take a closer look at these two ways of understanding the song. Interpretation A reads the song as social critique. In this view, Eden is mainstream society, the respectable life. Being beyond is a political act of refusal or the result of social exclusion. The message is freedom comes at a cost. Interpretation B sees it in more existential terms. Here, Eden is lost innocence, a time when life felt simple and self-evident. Being beyond is the state of being an adult in a complex world where meaning isn't given to you. It has to be actively sought out.
And here's the kicker. We don't have to choose. The true genius of this text is that both of these layers, the social and the existential, don't cancel each other out. In fact, they feed each other. After all, social pressure is often the trigger for our biggest existential crises.
This brings us to one last big question. Where exactly does the text leave us hanging? And why is that so effective? It doesn't give us a finished recipe, no blueprint for a new way of life, and that empty space is its greatest strength. Because it stays vague, we can project our own stories, our own search for meaning right into that gap. That's what makes it timeless.
And that brings us to our conclusion. Why is this song, decades after it was written, still so relevant? Because the feeling of being on the outside, of not quite belonging, is timeless.
Just think about today. The song gives us a language for the constant pressure to conform, at work and in our personal lives. It perfectly captures the debates around alternative lifestyles. It taps into that nagging feeling that so many people know, the feeling of being somehow wrong, which is a core theme in mental health. And ultimately, it's about the big, timeless search for belonging in a world that just keeps getting more complex. So if there's one thing to take away, it's this powerful message. Feeling like you're on the outside can be painful, no doubt, but it can also be the necessary start of a real and authentic search for yourself and your own place in the world. In the end, Jenseits von Eden is a masterclass in ambivalence. The song doesn't give us easy answers. It doesn't resolve the eternal conflict between our need for security and our desire for freedom. It just holds that tension. And maybe that, learning to live with contradictions, is one of the most important skills for a meaningful life.